Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly introduction on all the greatest and latest things of TV, music,
Music.
and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name's Mike. At least I got that right.
Yeah.
His name's Matt. I got that right.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us on the week. What was I going to say? Something about weekend. Thank you for joining us on the Media Boat Podcast. What is going on right now? The vibe is off.
See,
Um,
I think it's because I was going to say movies and music. I just come smash them together to music,
Music.
music,
Wow.
and now it's
Like the
kind of like
talking
it's
pictures
music
of
too.
1928. Thank you for joining us for the Media Boat Podcast. This is episode 5. Wow, no. Four scroll up, Matt. 452.
Yes,
And today is September the 10th, 2024. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about.
it is our pre-September the 11th show.
Yeah,
Well, we're not doing a show on September 11th, but this is our pre-show for the day before.
sure. Something like that.
Yeah, and we got a lot to talk about.
We do.
Lots of thoughts in a lot of different categories. In fact, this may just
Yes.
be an entire like Mike doc. You could just slam it all together. But let's get right into this as we start with the music section. Start the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And the hottest song in the land is a bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi.
Yep, still.
Yep, coming in at 2, I Had Some Help by Post Malone, featuring Morgan Wallen. Coming in at 3, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. At 4, Please, Please, Please by Sabrina Carpenter. And coming in at 5, you guessed it, Taste by Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, all three Sabrina Carpenter singles remain on the top 5 after last week, after they 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 debuted. But yeah, not much else changed. A couple things moved back up, but that's it.
Yep. As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, because of those 3 songs, hefty laying it up. At number 1 is Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter.
Yep.
Coming in at 2, F1 Trillion by Post Malone. At 3, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess by Chapel Roan. Your Billboard cover artist in March or in October.
Yeah.
At 4, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen. And coming in at number 5, The Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift.
Returning to the top 5, I would assume in advance of this week's VMAs, which are tomorrow, in which Taylor is expected to be there, not expected to perform. Chapel Roan expected to perform. Sabrina Carpenter expected to perform. So a lot to look forward to. That will be tomorrow night, the 11th.
Eminem expected to perform.
Yeah, I guess so. It'll be a weird night. We'll see. Katy Perry will be accepting the Video Vanguard in a year that she has just had the roughest luck and most awful messaging possible. We'll have to see if tomorrow she tries to say anything in her defense, but it doesn't look good. She's got to wash that Dr. Luke stink off of her. But hey, she chose to work with him, so
I mean, should she be accepting, the Vanguard Award, as you said, because of the work she's currently doing with Dr. Luke?
I mean, the MTV decided that it wasn't a big enough deal, so they are giving it to her anyways. It just all screams PR to me. It just seems like Katie's people probably reached out and said, like, hey, I think this would be a good idea. We have a big album we're trying to promote, and nobody cares about it.
You got to
We'll
get
see.
Katy Perry back in the spotlight, especially since she's not going to be in American Idol this upcoming year.
Yeah. But we'll see how that goes tomorrow.
All right. But enough about Katy Perry. We have new releases to talk about,
Yes.
including Art of the Unseen Infinity Machine by Allegra Krieger. Uh, there's also something called Devourer by Cursive, Cascade by Floating Points, Foxing by Foxing, Get Me the Good Stuff by Jade Hairpins, Now More Than Ever by John Early,
Yes, the comedian John Early.
The Greatest Love by London Grammar, Postcards from Texas by Miranda Lambert. Yes,
Yay.
that Miranda Lambert.
Melinda
Uh,
Lambert.
yep, Miranda Lambert. Moon Mirror by Nada Surf, no relation. My Method Actor
Okay.
by Nilufer Yanya, Shirt by Porches, The Forest is the Path by Snow Patrol.
Yes, that's Snow Patrol.
Yes. We also have Memoir of a Sparkle Muffin by Suki Waterhouse, Rack by the Jesus Lizard, and lastly, Performance by Trust. Is
I
this
guess.
Trust? Is this Trust?
TR/ST.
All right. Well, let's get right into the music news. And there was one thing bombarding everybody, bombarding me, bombarding everybody.
This week has been a roller coaster if you care at all about the band Linkin Park.
It's a roller coaster of emotion, sure, yes.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I'll let you take the reins here because I've been following all this pretty closely, but I am very curious what you think as someone who has been very invested in this band in the past.
So not last week, 2 weeks ago, we
Yes.
talked about a mysterious countdown that appeared on Linkin Park's website where it counted down from 100 down to zero. And then when it hit zero, it then started counting back up again, back to 100, and then back down to zero. And
Yeah.
no one knew what it was. At the time, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, I said it's probably just a release of their really old stuff when they used to be called the band Zero, before they were called Linkin Park. Made sense to me at the time. Well, they had other plans as
Yeah.
Linkin Park announced a new co-vocalist to that of Emily Armstrong of the band Dead Sarah. The band made this shocking and surprise announcement during a live performance set on Thursday. Colin Britton, a songwriter and producer for G Flip, Millennium, and One OK Rock, will also join the group as a drummer. The announcement came with a new single as well, titled The Emptiness Machine, the band's first new music release in 7 years, and will be the lead track from an upcoming album dubbed From Zero. The set record album will arrive on November 15th via Warner Records. Make that clear. They've always been with Warner Records. They're never going to leave them for whatever reason. As the group's first full-length effort since 2017's One More Light, which came out 2 months before the death of lead vocalist Chester Bennington,
So I put a
which
break
shocked the
here.
world
Yeah.
and like heartbroken, and basically the band kind of stopped touring at that point, kind of went away.
Yeah. So I put a break here in the story because I want to pause to talk about just this first half of information first.
Yes.
What do you think about this news initially, without, what the second half starts happening over the course
Before
of
we
the
get to
week?
the
But
second half, just
before we get
initial
there,
thoughts. As soon as it
yeah,
happened,
let's just talk
I
about that.
told literally everybody.
Yeah.
I texted you. I put it everywhere. I put it up like, oh my God, they're back. They announced a new album. They think this is a surprise live stream. What is happening? And then they announced that they would be doing a 6 tour dates. Sorry, let me put the asterisk there. A 6 world tour dates. Two
Hmm.
being the US and the remaining 4 being in like I think it's Sydney, Tokyo, London, and I want to say Russia. Um, but yeah, a world tour with a new vocalist and a new drummer with a new song and
Mhm.
a new album, the first in 7 years. And so it was
Yeah.
a lot of new coming at you all at the same time.
Yeah. So my
So
question
let's
then
go
for
right
you,
into the actual performance then with
yeah,
Emily
yeah.
Armstrong.
I was gonna say, so basically three questions here. What do you think of the performance? What did you think of Emily Armstrong's vocals? And three, did you listen to the single and are you excited to for the album?
I was, yeah, I don't know if I was like over the moon with the new vocals. Then again, I never am with a live performance, especially
Right.
someone
Sure.
trying to be that of Chester Bennington. But what they did during the live performance was cater to Emily Armstrong's strengths and
Mhm.
trying to make the songs not basically karaoke style, but make it her own.
Yeah.
Saw this a lot of in a lot of the different arrangements with
Yes.
the songs,
I was going to mention
especially
a few
of
of them, they took up a key for her voice, I
yeah,
noticed.
not just
They
for
were
her
different
voice,
than the
but
original.
also for
Yeah.
but just in general, the tone that they set was yes, we're still going to do hard rock, but we also recognize that we have aged as a group, so our
Right.
registers may not be as high. Mike Shinoda, in an interview later, acknowledged this with the interview with Apple News, Apple
Oh, the
Music.
Apple One thing with
Yeah,
Zane
the
Lowe
Apple
or
One,
whatever.
Apple
Yeah.
Music one that they were doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And said that, yeah, we're like, we recognize our own vocal cords and like I purposely like change it up because you can't really hit those notes anymore. You can't scream for that long, or
Right.
you probably shouldn't have done it in the first place. But that's kind of like the sound that they've been in. But going back to the original performance, it definitely felt a lot more rock, a lot more grunge, a lot more of that kind of new metal sound that they were going for way back with Meteor, which pulled in a lot of fans, way back with Hybrid Theory, which pulled in a lot of fans. So I think the keys that they kind of ended up resulting on for Emily Armstrong are more in line with that of like Castle of Glass, kind of like the Hunting Party album where it wasn't that full like screaming into the microphone,
Mhm.
screaming,
Yeah.
singing.
And
Uh,
interesting that you bring that up because with the new single, it seems like they're going to continue in that direction. It's very
yes,
much in their kind of pop mode and less so in their new metal mode.
yeah, which I think a lot of people were kind of cautiously going into this, especially coming from the band Dead Sarah,
Yeah.
that it may not be what they expected, but not unexpectedness can also be a good and bad thing depending on where you land, depending on what song you're
Mhm.
singing. I did notice that during the live show, her voice did crack and break,
Yeah.
and so she
Yeah.
quickly, as a lead performer does, switched to let the audience sing this if I
Yeah.
can't sing this.
I noticed that too. It's a good
But
tactic.
it's definitely a good tactic. Well, it's fine. Let's use it all the time, especially when she forgets her own lyrics. So it's definitely a good I think it was a good performance overall. It definitely got me excited, especially when they announced that there was going to be a tour set dates at the end and that this was the new band going forward. I was like, okay, I'm all in on this. Let's get going. Like nothing could steer this train wrong as we headed into this Linkin Park. Well, they don't call themselves Linkin Park 2.0. They don't call themselves
Right.
like New Kin Park like other people have been saying, or
It's
Emma
terrible.
Linkin Park
That's
as I've
terrible.
seen,
Those are
which is also
bad.
terrible. That they are still Linkin Park, the band. So all gung ho, excited when they announced that tickets would be going on sale on Saturday. Jumped into the queue, uh, tried to get my tickets. Was not going to spend $600 to spend on tickets. But checking now, I do see resale tickets are up. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that's actually a pretty good price.
Well, before before
Before
you
you lose me to
start
to
buying
buying
stuff.
tickets, Well, I say that because like I see a 162 for like the top row, or for sorry for like the 100 section, like top seats. Where when the day of it was going for like 600.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm not going to spend $600 for the show. I'll spend 150 probably. I might pull a trigger on this later today, but yeah. So they did announce that they would do a new show, two shows, one in Forum, LA Forum, and one in Barclays Center for the US. So you have one of two chances living in the US to see them on a Wednesday show. The show is
Yeah.
tomorrow. The show
Right.
happens in the middle of the week for LA.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I might go. I'm thinking about it. Now that the prices come down, I'm not, I might like scoop up a ticket here and see what happens. But
Yes.
should I go to the show, I know to
Yes.
expect the second half of the story and how to confront that. So,
Right.
no sooner than they announced the Linkin Park would have a new singer, did the internet do its thing and find out everything about this person, what is
Yes.
right with them, and more important, I don't know if it's more importantly, but more loudly,
Yeah.
what is wrong with this choice?
Hmm.
So, speaking of the new vocalist, Emily Armstrong, criticism emerged over her previous ties to the Church of Scientology and her past support of convicted rapist and actor Danny Masterson. She actually, while this is all going on Thursday night, like following her performance, the internet just raged about how this was a terrible choice. This was a poor choice. You could have chosen literally anybody else. Think of your image, think of Chester, and not really allowing the band to respond before everyone was already making judgments about this. So late Friday, Emily responded to all the criticism and she put in an Instagram story, quote, "Hi, I'm Emily. I'm new to so many of you, and I wanted to clear the air about something that happened a while back. Several years ago, I was asked to support someone I considered a friend at a court appearance and went to one early hearing as an observer. Soon after, I realized I shouldn't have. I always try to see the good in people, and I misjudged him. I have never spoken to him since. To say it as clearly as possible, I do not condone abuse or violence against women, and I empathize with the victims of these crimes." Close quote.
So, yeah, a lot to unpack here. So I saw this chatter while the performance was happening. I saw some people start saying like, "Wait a minute, isn't this the Scientology girl?" And everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that's right," and started sharing screenshots of previous social media posts that she had made, and yeah, everything pointing towards this era, just a handful of years ago, in 2020 or 2021, in which she was actively supporting Danny Masterson during this trial. Not a great look, but as we know, as we've learned from Leah Remini, Scientology is a weird thing because once you're in, and she is born into it, she does not, she didn't
She
necessarily
didn't choose
choose.
it. It
She
chose her.
was
She
a
was
second
forced into it.
generation, as they call it,
Yes.
because they kind of do that kind of lineage to explain away why people are part of it.
A
Um,
Nepo
sure,
Scientologist.
Scientologists, yeah. And so once you're in it, it seems like it's very hard to get out. And two is that you're often roped into defending people in the church, regardless of what they may have done. So the way she phrases it in the apology seems to probably reflect how it was, which is they basically told her to do it. Is that like as a member of the church, they were basically like, Well, yeah, you have to be by his side. You have to defend him. You are in kind of the same kind of like age group. Danny Masterson, notably, also a second generation Scientologist. They probably are grouped together in a lot of cases, and are treated as a unit. And so it's not super surprising that someone involved in this religion, although I even hesitate to call it that, as opposed to speaking out against it, even when all the evidence amassed over the couple of years, and ultimately he was convicted. Um, I am glad that she made an apology at all. It's unfortunate that she didn't mention him by name. Oh, that's a little weird, but like everybody kind of assumes that this is who she's talking about. And a
Yeah,
lot of
she didn't
people,
mention. Oh no, yeah, she didn't mention him by name in the quote.
right, it's assumed by the
Mhm.
context. But yeah, the other half of that though is like a lot of people are out here being like, well, why isn't she saying one, if she's still in Scientology, if she's still involved, or why hasn't she said anything against the church? And here's where things get complicated. I also point people towards the Leah Remini documentary and book, because in it she talks about how it's very hard for somebody who, even if they were in the church, to start speaking against the church, because they come under fire. They're in a lot of danger, just like she was, if they say anything anti Scientology in public, even if they have left the church. So there's no way for us to know, unfortunately, whether she is still involved or not, because in order to do so, she would have to basically paint a giant target on her back. So, kind of her choices, like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't right now. If she stays mum about it, she gets a lot of internet people angry about the choice that Linkin Park made. But if she speaks against them, then she has the entire Church of Scientology tracking her down. It's a really awful place to be cornered for a choice that ultimately she didn't make. All that said, it comes down to me, where I've kind of landed on this is, well, the band made this decision. Ultimately, this was a choice that Linkin Park as an entity was so confident about making publicly that they probably had to think about this for a very long time. They had to weigh a lot of the options, and they would have had to know about her past. They would have had to have known all this was going to come up as soon as they made the announcement. Most people know the internet, it's like is powerful and like united in this way. They had to have known that this was going to be something that would have come up. So the fact that they were still confident enough to announce it means that they're confident enough that this is something that in this person, that they believe she is a good person despite this having happened. Um, then you kind of have some peripheral stories that we don't really have time to get into, like I guess Chester Bennington's son has spoken out against her today. He talked explicitly how, like, I guess he's gotten a lot of hate as well for speaking out about the issue on the internet. And then you also have people that are in the same music circles speaking out against the choice. A musician whose wife was actually one of the victims of Masterson's crimes and was a former member of the Church of Scientology. They have both spoken out against Emily's position in the band. Yeah, it's a total mess. But again, it's going to be up to an individual Linkin Park fan to decide, one, whether she did enough with this apology, and two, like whether or not like her supposed involvement or maybe continuous involvement in the church is a deal breaker. And I think for some people it is, and some people it is not.
I think that either side you land on, you should not be attacking the other side. You should
Right,
not be demonizing one way or the other. These are all your individual choices, whether or not to support a band. Like you can
right.
still be a fan of Linkin Park's previous music, their previous albums. You can still
Yep.
be a fan of them because that work is still out there. That doesn't mean you are like automatically a fan of everything going forward. If you want to speak out in a very um, civil way about the band's choices, you can freely do that. Like there's nothing that's going to stop you from doing that. Just don't attack. Just don't be part
Yeah.
of like mob mentality and start. running down the rabbit hole and attacking people, because that's not what any of this is for. That's not what anybody wants
Yeah.
from this.
I mean, the ultimate complicating factor here is Chester Bennington's death and the circumstances around it. I think that if he had just left the band and hadn't passed in the way that he did, the conversation would be a lot different. I think people are holding a lot of things, asking a lot of questions that can't be answered, which is, what would he think about this? What would his opinion be? And like, as soon as you start doing that, it's a moot point because we'll never know. Ultimately, the band decided to do what they did. They made a decision, and likely they're going to stick by it. I really doubt that there's going to be some sort of video game industry-esque change of plans 3 days later just because the internet freaked out. No, they're putting out an album. The single's already out. They're committing to this tour. They're sticking with it. And so, yeah, ultimately, it doesn't matter because they have chosen this for the future of the band. They've chosen this as the legacy of the band, and it's up to the fans to decide how they feel about that.
Yep. Um,
Yeah,
you can speak with your dollars, you can speak with your listens,
yeah,
but ultimately, what you do is, like you said, it's not going to affect what the band's going to do in the next
yeah,
tour, the next month here, next year,
yeah. And like I
as they
said, where
will
I've
put out the album. They are already written songs. They
yeah,
actually performed for their family and friends before the Thursday show,
yeah,
and everyone seemed to approve that they want to continue with this band. Um, do note that the drummer
yeah.
is also replaced because he didn't want to return. Note, not because of Emily Armstrong, or at least he
Right
said
before that
that.
decision was made,
Before that decision,
apparently.
he was already like
Yeah,
walking away from the band, that he wanted to basically retire, that he had this what amounts to infinite money constantly coming in residuals. I just wanted to
yeah,
be dad. He just wanted to be a family man.
yeah. And
So
I had read,
Rob Borden, you will be missed on the drums.
yeah.
But yeah,
I had read a quote where he was even like he had stopped really showing to promotional events. He had stopped kind of like coming to rehearsals, and so they were pretty much like, "You got this guy already has like a foot out the door. We're just not gonna like we're just gonna let him live his life."
yep.
Anyway,
Um, anyways, any last words or thoughts about New Linkin Park?
I'll just say is I also listened to the single. I think it's got a catchy chorus. I'll say that much.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right. They're kind of going towards a version of the band that I think is going to be mixed for some hardcore fans. I think you're going to see either people interested in a slightly different direction. I'm curious about the record. I think that Emily adds an interesting layer to their sound. And despite all the baggage, I think it's an interesting choice. But with the baggage, where I've landed is kind of like I said earlier. Ultimately, yes, it would be better if she didn't have the baggage of the Church of Scientology on her back. It's not, obviously everything we know about the institution seems pretty shitty. But if we can watch Tom Cruise movies, I think we can deal with the fact that Emily's still in the band. I think that her apology, specifically about the Danny Masterson stuff, was well executed, in my opinion. I think she said what she had to say, and ultimately, you can't go back and change it. And so I think just the circumstances of the way that religion/cult works is unfortunate, but I personally am accepting and will listen to whatever this is, despite all this, out of curiosity and see how it goes. I haven't been a fan of the band in the past necessarily, so it's not really a big deal if I end up not liking it. So that's where I've landed.
Um, we're not shy here on who we do and do not support on this
Right.
podcast. So if
Yeah.
you out there, listener, do not want to support the band, you're free to do so.
It's your choice.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's your choice. We are notorious here for our disdain for certain artists. See, Billboard top five artist Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, I would
Um,
like to believe that we're pretty firm in our stances here. An email we got to the email address seems to be a little confused about our stance about AI. But besides that, I feel like we're pretty clear.
I was well, I was surprised they reached out to episode 360
360.
as they post quoted in the email,
Why are they listening to old episodes? Anyway.
because that's where the good stuff happened. I hate to tell you, but I think we're over the hill there. Our best years may be behind us.
I don't know. We haven't even hit 500 yet. Just wait.
Just wait for the 500 spectacular.
All right, we need to move on because there's other stuff we absolutely need to talk about.
All right, let's talk about the other bombshell that happened today.
Yeah, these will be brief little music bits because they were too important to leave out.
Yep. Going off controversy in controversial figures in the music industry. Beloved son of rock and roll and beloved father of current generational rock and roll is not as beloved as one may seem. Yes, we're going to talk about Dave Grohl
Yeah.
coming out and admitting that he had an affair and resulted in a love child out of wedlock.
Yeah, he announced this today on his social media platforms. It's an interesting move. Most of the time when you see celebrities and or music industry people, um, they used to usually cover up this kind of thing. It's something that's usually buried and is found out in a memoir years later, or someone leaks this information to the
Or
press.
court documents, filed
Yeah, court
custody,
documents or
something like
something,
that.
or somebody calls you out in a rap song. But generally
Well,
speaking,
go get to that.
uh, yeah, this doesn't happen that often. However, it has happened this time, and I'm mixed about how I feel. Obviously, he's admitting that he cheated on his wife. Not great look for Dave Grohl, a beloved Dave Grohl, who prior to this seemed pretty immune to cancellation. However, the second part of this is, but at the same time, though, that the fact that he just outright admitted it shows some balls and is something that most people don't do. And it is kind of the better, I guess, move than burying it and only to make it worse later. I think it's interesting that he also couples the statement with he's working with his family and his wife, to figure out how they're going to
Mhm.
move forward after this. Ultimately, it's up to the family. I don't know how this proceeds, but it is interesting at least and says something about Dave Grohl that he did just up and say it.
He, well, as the internet loves to do, as I pointed out with Emily Armstrong, the internet loves to dig up the past of Dave Grohl.
Yes.
And if you're reading message boards and comments and threads, you will see that he had a past of this 25, 4 or 5 ish years ago,
Yeah.
where he had affairs with multiple girlfriends, ex-wives, and, you know, slowly built up this appearance, like you said, of being like
Right.
rock dad, that he's there for
Yeah.
his kids. He shows up for family, community events, and then this happens and shatters all that kind of goodwill that he's built.
I mean, it does and it doesn't. I think that the thing is that as a rock star, especially a male rock star,
Mhm.
I think it'll be very easy for him to recover as opposed to if, say, this happened to a woman. I think it just so happens that he's lucky that he's a white guy in the business as opposed to any other alternative. Because yeah, I think him of all people, yeah, it's not going to be too long till we as a society forget this ever happened. But still, yeah, interesting that he is being so honest about it.
Yep. But if someone having an affair is not what you want to support, I do implore you to throw all your Foo Fighters gear away. You can stop listening to them. You can do anything you were going to do with Linkin Park. The same thing with Foo Fighters now.
You can do
And
that.
that puts my middle school child, like inner child in me, of like, what happened to my heroes?
Everybody, yeah. Turns out people are human and this stuff happens.
Except for
Yep.
Brandon Flowers. Because are they
Yet.
human or are they dancer?
Fair enough. Anyway,
All right.
here's
Speaking
my
of
solution.
dancers
Real,
and humans, and
real quick,
yes,
I'll just say one last thing, which is just always approach celebrities with skepticism. Never put somebody on too high of a pedestal because they will always disappoint you. This is the lesson we learn over and over and over again. All right, now you can continue.
yes, your idols and your heroes are human too,
Yes.
and they
Anyway.
can and will disappoint you. Unless they're doing the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show, because they will not disappoint. Kendrick Lamar, freshly after destroying Canadian Drake over here, has humbly accepted that he is indeed not like us as he will be one of the select few to perform at the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah, notably, this is not his first appearance. He appeared alongside Dr. Dre and company just a couple of years ago.
Yep, at the LA Super Bowl
Yes.
halftime show.
But this will be
Also, note that
its.
during the announcement, it said that he would not he would headline,
Mhm.
or not that he would start, but that he'd be the only one showing up. So there is possibility for others to show up.
Yeah, there's
Their
possibility.
appearances.
I would guess that there would probably be some guests here. He has a pretty impressive discography, but not a whole lot of actual hits with a capital H. You have to keep in mind that he's only had like a couple of number ones in his career. He is not traditionally a number one artist. He is an albums artist. He is somebody who is he's your rap artist favorite rap artist kind of guy. He is not necessarily someone who's going to come out and play the hits. He's going to play probably a handful of deep cuts as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if the guests kind of fill in some of those gaps. So I would imagine that that's what we see. But still, he is riding a high right now. He's probably the biggest in culture that he ever has, thanks to Not Like Us and the Drake diss track legacy of this year. It'll be really, really interesting if he uses this as a platform to talk more shit about Drake.
Or if he will just be humble.
No, he's not. He's not telling himself to be humble. He's telling other people to sit
Oh,
down and be humble.
yes, other people have
Yeah.
to sit down and be humble as he
Yeah.
performs at the Super Bowl halftime show presented by Dr. Dre.
Right. So yeah, I'm interested to see what he does. Because yeah, what does a Kendrick Lamar in the prime of his power do with the halftime show? We'll find out.
How much can Drake be embarrassed for not even being there?
Yeah, just bury him at this point. Like that's all that's gonna
Bury him at the
happen.
50-yard line. Wait, no, the 20-yard line, because that's where they buried Jimmy Hoffa too. All right. We got one last thing to talk about
We do.
in the music news. It happened. It dropped. The 2025 Stagecoach lineup is officially here.
Aha.
And taking a look at it, you'll notice a very, very strong male presence and a very, very lack of female presence on the billboard on the list, as it will be headlined by Zach Bryan, Jelly Roll, who was there last year, and Luke Combs playing fathers and sons. Other female artists showing up on the lineup here. We have Lana Del Rey, very country artist Lana Del Rey. Carly Pierce, Ashley McBride, and other names that are too small for me to read.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
But
Nelly
that's
is
not
also
the
showing
weird.
up here.
Yeah, that's not the weirdest thing about this. This is a weird year for Stagecoach because it seems like they're doing a lot of weird stunt casting, I guess, for
Mhm.
lack of a better word here. Where yeah, you have Nelly celebrating the 25th, I think they said, anniversary of country grammar, his record Country Grammar.
Yes, and it's
Um,
right there next to Sturgill Simpson.
yeah,
Also
yeah,
have Sammy Hagar here with Midland,
sure.
Scotty McCreery, and the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah, what?
But let's get to the very bottom here, because
Uh-huh.
at Diplo's Honky Tonk and Late Night Palomino performance, you will see none other than the very, very country act of T-Pain and Creed. Yes, that Creed.
Yeah.
And in big bold letters, Backstreet Boys.
Uh-huh.
Yes, those Backstreet Boys. Um, with the very, very special guest of Guy Fieri and
Sure.
Compton Cowboys. What is Stagecoach anymore?
Yeah, so as somebody who's been to a lot of stagecoaches, what is your take on all of this?
Pass. One, pass. I don't need to see all these artists.
Uh,
Uh, two, you're like I said, lack of headliner or lack of female headliners and lack of legacy acts. Typically, in these past Stagecoach lineups, you have your top male act, your top female act, and then your top legacy act. I don't think Luke Combs counts as a legacy act,
no.
and both Zach Bryan and Jelly Roll count as two new of an acts. I don't know if they can
Right.
like even support a headlining role unless you count Jelly Roll's very, very rock and rap infused past before he turned to country. So I don't know. It's definitely. I mean, I was gonna pass on this year already due to other circumstances, but now it's just like
Right.
a for sure pass.
Yeah.
Oh, but speaking of passes, did you see the price?
No, did it go up?
Yes. If you would like to pay for this lineup, currently general admission passes go for $579. If you want the shuttle combo, it goes up to $700.
Oof. Wow. So you can either get a shuttle combo pass to Stagecoach or something that we'll talk about in the next section for the same
Yes,
price.
for the exact same price. Needless to say, I can definitely use that money for other stuff,
Other things, yes. Uh-huh.
other
I saw
things.
somebody, yeah. No, I'll wait for that.
But we'll get there because
Yeah,
all right. So yeah, yeah, they projected the prices. I mean, we used to go to Stagecoach for 400. It was 399 for like the longest time, and now you're paying almost double that
yeah, not
for
good.
a terrible lineup. Pass.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
you're done. You cooked. You burnt yourself.
I would imagine this is in response to, I think that they have this image that like maybe perhaps that they want it to be as big as Coachella, and maybe it isn't. And so maybe they're trying to get a wider audience.
Possibly. I mean, they did sell more tickets last year because Morgan Wallen was
Right.
one of the headliners. So they're kind of dipping back to that well of, well, we need a top five Billboard artist to show up, as well as this kind of like rock infused, country infused lifestyle that they're going with. Because Post Malone was also there last year.
Yeah. I think that that's what they're trying to do with Lana Del Rey's performance. Her next album is supposedly country influenced. So we'll see.
We will see. Actually, we won't see because I won't be there.
Right.
Although, live stream, thank you, YouTube, for live
Yes.
streaming it.
You will be okay. You'll be able to
The
see who you
only
want to
way I
see.
will watch it is from the comfort of my couch.
Exactly.
Couchcella
Couchcella
or
or
stage
stage
couch.
couch. Yeah,
Yes,
stage couch.
got there. Well, it's 3 weekends. Couchcella to stage couch.
Right.
I ain't
Yep.
moving. All
No
right.
need to.
Uh,
All right.
we talked about an hour into music section. Anything
We did.
else?
No, we'll just end it there. I didn't listen to anything of mainstream note. But if you um like alterna country rock, the MJ Lenderman record that came out this last week, Manning Fireworks, is one of the best of the year. I almost want you to listen to it because it's just country-esque enough that you might get a kick out of some of it. I'd be curious, but I keep giving you homework and you keep not listening to stuff. So
Well, I'm
add it
sorry.
to the
My homework's in
pile
the mail
again.
because I'll be listening to Postcards from Texas by Miranda Lambert.
Well, yeah, I'll be listening to that as well. We'll talk about that next week. But yes,
Yeah.
the CDs of homework are stacking up for you.
All right. Something about fireworks. Got it.
Anyway,
Anyways, video games. We had a big announcement today in video games, but before we get to that, we got to talk about new releases,
yeah.
including Lollipop Chainsaw Repop for the PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and the Switch. Yes, this is a re-release of
Yes,
Lollipop Chainsaw.
a remake, remaster, I guess, of Lollipop
Repop.
Chainsaw. Yeah. By the way, originally written by none other than James Gunn.
Oh,
Yeah. Fun
makes
fact.
sense.
Yes. Back when he was just the horror guy and not the Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel guy.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. I would have also gone with Zack Snyder. Like I would have also believed that one, but
No,
yeah,
not that side of, yeah,
not that side.
not that. No.
All right. We also have Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, arcade classics for the PC, PS4, and the Switch. Uh, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown for the PS5, Xbox Series X, and the Switch. Get your castles ready. It's Crossy Road Castles for
Yeah,
the
I didn't know they were
PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and the Switch.
I didn't know they were still making Crossy Road sequels, but I guess they
Yeah, they
are.
are. Yeah, they are. We also have Satisfactory, which will be leaving early access and be a part of
Yes.
PC.
Finally, this has been in early access for years. And yeah, finally 1.0.
Yes. We also have Yars Rising for everything wide release. You got it. You can play it.
Yeah, they showed this at one of the Nintendo Indie showcases earlier this year, and this is that Metroidvania side scroller that that borrows from Yar's Revenge, the Atari game. This kind of looked okay when they first showed it off. This is a way forward joint, and I usually
Okay.
like their stuff. So I don't know, maybe I'll check it out if I have time and the wherewithal. We'll
All
see.
right. There's also two big releases this week.
Yes,
Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 for the
Space Marine.
PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. And your big wide release out everywhere, Funko Fusion.
Yeah,
That's right. It's Funko Pops in Universal Studios lands, movies.
you're right.
All
It's
all their it's Halloween Horror Nights all fused together.
Yeah, it's sort of like
Lego
what was that?
does
Yeah, what was that other game though? I can't think of what it is. Not Fortnite.
multiverses.
Uh yeah, maybe I don't know. There's some other game that kind of did this idea where it's like, oh, here's just a bunch of IP that we own, and we're just gonna throw it at you. Well, you're Funko Pops, I guess. I don't know. This sounds
Are
like
you
it could
thinking
be
of Space
okay.
Jam: A New Legacy? So this is kind of what this
No,
is,
but yeah, it's the
but in
video game
video game
equivalent.
format.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like gameplay is very like those Lego games. So if you like those Lego games, there's maybe something here, but I'm very curious to see actually how good this thing is.
It looked cute. I was actually like the trailer. I was impressed by it. It has a lot of the IP that I want to play with,
Sure.
but unfortunately, my time is currently invested somewhere else. So let's get right over into PlayStation. As today,
Yes.
Sony officially announced the PlayStation 5 Pro, and
Yes.
they were immediately shat on all over the internet. So the new console will be released on November 7th for $700.
No, you said it wrong. You have to say $699 US.
Yes, yes. 699 US dollars. So
Sorry, I
for the
apologize for
cost of
anybody who's
one
too
Stagecoach
young to
ticket.
right. But yeah, I apologize on behalf of anybody who's too young to remember the 2006 E3 press conference where they announced the PS3 price. Sorry, I'm
Yes, for
old.
599.
599 US dollars.
All right. Well, so you could go to Stagecoach for 3 days with a shuttle pass, or you could get a PlayStation 5 Pro, which will include not one, but 2 terabyte SSD and a DualSense wireless controller. But this will be a digital only console with
Correct.
the disk drive sold separately and this vertical stand sold
Yes.
separately. So revealed during the live stream hosted by system architect Mark Cerny, the system introduces a larger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI-driven upscaling for new and existing titles. According to Sony, PlayStation 5 Pro has a GPU with 67% more compute units than the current PS5 console and 28% faster memory. But what does it mean, Basil? It means that overall, the PS5 Pro has a 45% faster rendering for gameplay, quote, making the experience much smoother, end quote. Meanwhile, Advanced ray tracing allows in-game light rays to be cast at double, nay, triple the times the speed of the current PS5 console. Finally, the PS5 Pro introduces PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, which is an AI-driven upscaling that uses a machine learning-based technology to provide sharper image clarity, according to Sony. Other enhancements include the PS5 Pro Game Boost, which can apply to more than 8,500 backwards compatible PS4 games playable on the PS5 Pro. This feature may stabilize or improve the performance of supported PS4 and PS5 games. Enhanced image quality for PS4 games is also available to improve the resolution on select PS4 games. And they did this by showcasing games that were released for the PS4.
Yeah, there were a lot of weird moments in this presentation. I watched it live and yeah, they focused a lot on this being kind of a solution to the problem of the last couple of generations of performance mode versus quality mode. And Mark Cerny kind of gave this like whole spiel about we don't want people to have to choose anymore. We would like to bring us to a time where quality mode is performance mode, and we can just have that united, and people don't have to make the choice anymore. And so they made a big deal about increased detail in 60 frames mode so that way you're getting what you wanted in the first place from a PS5. Um, as for the rest of it, it is weird that they were showing a lot of older games. It goes to show you that they didn't really have anything new that they could show off at the moment that they haven't already, I guess, announced or didn't want or had available to show. So yeah, they brought the fact that they kept bringing up The Last of Us Part 2, which is a native PlayStation 4 game, to showcase how good the graphics are on the PS5 Pro, yeah, is a little worrying and really speaks to the state of the industry right now. But besides all of the weirdness, this is just history repeating itself. We lived through the PS4 Pro as well, and this is basically that again. They're marketing it to the same kind of, they're making the same kind of argument for it that they did for the PS4 Pro. It is a stopgap measure, just like the PS4 Pro was. This is not going to affect probably 60% of the audience. There's that 40%, maybe even lower, that are going to be maybe I dropped the money on something that makes my games look a little better. Maybe. But this is a pro model. It's not meant for the average consumer. They are not intending on this to replace the PS5 in retail. This is just a high priced option for the super fans who want the top of the line machine to have the top of the line machine.
It's also
Yeah.
higher price because you need to buy
Yes.
an external hard drive disk to attach to it.
Yeah, if you want to run physical discs, you will have to buy the
Mhm.
extender that they sold with the Slim model earlier this year. Yeah, not ideal, that part. But then again, they also probably assume that a power user is buying their games digitally. They probably have data that supports that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the majority of people who were early adopters probably didn't care. So yeah, the price point is high, but you just have to keep telling yourself it's not for everybody on purpose. They're purposefully pricing you out because they know that this is for the top of the top. This is for the PlayStation Elite. This is for the people who are paying into the premium level of their subscription every year. This is for the people who are buying this, who are going to be in the queues buying this on day one. So I think it's a little overblown that people are complaining as much as they are because it's not for you. If you're complaining about it, you've already made up your mind that this is not something you need or want. And thankfully, I have removed myself from this conversation because I have a good PC now. And so the whole time I was watching this, it was like, the whole time I was watching this, like, any game that I care about this, I can play on the PC. So I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me either. So I've been freed from a $700 purchase as well. So yeah, just make your own decision. Just think critically about this and decide whether or not it's worth it. But for some people, they're going to pony up for it.
And for some people, they're going to spend that $700 on upgrading other stuff in their home, like
Right.
a new 4K TV. Oh, is
Yeah.
that me? Is that a finger pointing right at me for doing
Yeah.
that this past
Yeah,
weekend?
exactly. How's that
Yeah.
been treating you?
Well, it's been treating me really nice because I had a good game to go with it too.
Yes, yes, you did.
Let's get right into it. We got to talk about
Oh
Game
God.
of the Year, Astro Bot.
Yeah, we don't even need to do the end of the year podcast for video games. Well, we do. But yeah, it's been decided. This thing,
I
I
have a smile every time I play it. Every
oh
time,
yeah,
every like looking at I'm like, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's cute. And they take wanderers and explorers and like do everything to a new level because I'm like,
yeah,
ooh, can I reach over there? Yes, I can. And it rewards me for doing it. It's not like, oh, what's over here? Oh, nothing, dead end. Well, that sucks. It's always, oh, what's over here?
right.
Oh, big coin, big surprise. Person, bot, puzzle piece. Or like I'm gonna fly over to this tree top because I can.
Yeah.
Oh look, it rewards me with extra coins.
Astrobot takes everything that they had done previously in their previous Astrobot games, Astrobot's Playroom, the PS5 launch game,
Mhm.
and blows it up to even bigger and more amazing proportions. That was basically just a taste. Like, and that was a great game. But that was just like the appetizer for the main course. And Astrobot is definitely a main course. So, how much of it have you played so far? What world are
I've
you
not
on?
beat the octopus yet.
Okay, so you're on world two.
I'm actually at being the octopus. Like I have to unlock him and then beat him. But
So
I keep getting sidetracked because I want to complete every
yeah,
other world before I get there.
right. So I'm taking a different tact. I am doing the opposite of that, where I'm just doing one dry run through each level, passing it, and then later I'm going to come back and find everything on the previous levels. I'm just going to do that after I finish. So yeah, I got into world 4 today.
Okay.
I'm in progress in world 4 right now. And yeah, you're right. It's just every level in this thing is just jam packed with stuff to do. And it's not a very hard game. I feel like I am finally getting to the point where it is starting to challenge me. I am dying a lot more than I was in the first couple of worlds. But that said, it is differentiating itself from the Mario series in my head, which is the easy comparison, right? Is open
Mhm.
world platformer with secrets everywhere. Sounds like Mario Odyssey, right? And it does take some cues from Odyssey and Galaxy's designs, but it is its own thing. And one of the things I think that is uniquely Astrobot is it's not a punishing game. Pretty much, even if you die, you start like a few feet away from where you were. It's not, and the even the music doesn't reset. Like it knows that it wants to be a pretty frictionless, not necessarily frictionless, but it wants to be a easy, relaxing tone so that way you're constantly enjoying yourself instead of focusing on, oh God, this is frustrating. I don't think I have gotten frustrated with Astrobot a single time, which for me is amazing because platformers, especially like Mario platformers, similar to this, can get really frustrating for me. And this removes that. This is just like, nope, this is not an issue. You can sit back and just enjoy the crazy imaginative stuff that it throws at you. And it is constantly throwing imaginative, crazy stuff at you, like around every corner.
Yeah. The only part that I got really like frustrated on was trying to do one of like the side extra puzzles in the
Sure.
triangle world.
Which are
Well,
supposed to be
but it was
hard.
only, huh?
Which are
It was supposed to be
supposed to
hard.
be
It was supposed
hard.
to be
Yeah.
challenging. And of the four, it was only one of them that was super challenging for me.
Right.
Just because I was like trying to go super fast on it, but it's also like a
Right. Yeah.
mechanic.
Yeah.
I do really love that how I'm going to say this a lot, attention to detail. When the
Yes.
bots come into your controller, your home base, and you're looking at them, you can one, look at them,
Yeah.
two, the little captures they have of everybody, super
Yes.
funny and hilarious.
Yeah, they're good.
And three, if you use your controller while they're in there, the buttons goddamn move on the actual screen.
They do.
It's little attention to details like that. Like, hey,
Yeah.
if you're going to do this, you'll want to see it reflected on the screen. And they take that into account.
Yeah.
They made the six axis actually like mean
Six
something.
axis.
I know it's not six axis
It's not
anymore,
called that anymore, but that's very funny.
but that's what it was like. It plugged it like PlayStation 3. Try to use a six axis. Didn't work for crap for anybody. Here, I like using it. I
Yeah.
like the way it tilts and moves and wobbles and everything. I think it's a good, like they took the tech demo and said, yeah, people like these features. It's
Yeah.
fun features. Let's make it actually adaptable to a video game.
It's such an interesting game because throughout it you can see the DNA of so many different things that are interwoven within it. You talking about that reminded me a little bit about the DS era when all these developers were trying to be like, well, what can we make games that take advantage of every single one of these features of this system? Astro Bot has that approach with the DualSense controller. It's like every single thing you could possibly do with the DualSense is used in this game, down to, like you said, the tilt control, to the rumble, to the touchpad, to the microphone.
Mhm.
There's blowing into the microphone stuff in this, which I haven't done since the DS era. Like, it's so smart in the way it uses every piece of gameplay that they could possibly bring out. But like I said, it's also owes a lot to previous game franchises. Mario's a big one. It's an obvious, like the way that the game is set up is an obvious homage to Super Mario Galaxy. Then like there's little stuff too. At the end of level, it does a Kirby inspired mini game where you have to hit like a
Shoot.
special item on your way
Yeah.
out of the level. When the first time that happened, I was like, "Oh my God, they did a Kirby thing." Like also there's even like the PlayStation stuff is so interwoven. It's not just getting the Astro Bot characters that are dressed as PlayStation franchise characters. It's even in the gameplay of certain special levels. Like you played the first one, which is the first post boss encounter, which is the Ape Escape level.
Yes.
It throws you into a world where you basically just play Ape Escape.
Yep.
Well, just wait, because the game keeps doing stuff like that. Those after boss levels are all homages to PlayStation games, and they just keep getting better. All I'll
Well, I
say
haven't gotten to the
is,
second boss yet, so don't
yeah,
spoil it. But I
I
did
won't spoil
enjoy
it.
doing the mouse level where you would shrink down, and also it's a new
Yes,
level, it's a new
I
world.
that's one of my favorites so far because it literally transforms how you play that level
Mhm.
depending on what phase you are. There's a lot of similar stuff later because if anything, this game operates on one principle, which is surprise. It's constantly trying to surprise you. It's constantly being like, "Hey, yeah,
I
you
think
may
you
have,
mean wonder.
yeah." So yeah, it did. I did think a lot about Super Mario Wonder while I was playing this because in a similar way, it does that thing where, oh, I'm going to introduce this one mechanic that you're only going to see this one time, but you're going to remember it, and it does that constantly. It's just they took everything that's great about like platformer video games and put it into one just tight, perfectly playing package. Because that's the other half of this is that it's not just amazingly, it doesn't only look amazing, it plays amazing. It like feels just so perfect to play as Astrobot. The double jump is just perfect. Like the platforming just it's so precision in like a Mario-esque way that you never feel like the game is trying to trick you. Like it knows what you're capable of, and you know what you got to do. It's just a matter of
Mhm.
executing it in every single scenario. It's just yeah, it's just everything it's doing is just it's operating so perfectly. I just don't want to stop playing it when I am playing it. I just never want to put it down because there's always a new level for me to try, a new thing I haven't looked. And even when I'm done finding new levels, I am jazzed to go back and get the stuff I missed.
And that's the other thing that the replayability is. I can always see myself not just going back to playing old levels,
Mm,
but because most levels are very straightforward and simple, speed running through them
yeah.
as well.
So funny that you say that. They're going to add speed running specific DLC later that will
Mhm.
have built-in leaderboards. So you know we're gonna have some
Oh
fun with that
yes,
here.
yes. We won't have the issues that we had last time with Neon White for
Right? No,
leaderboards.
we're on the same platform this time. We're
Yeah,
going to
we
see
are.
this happen. So yeah, I mean we could go forever to talk about this, but I think like I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to say about Astrobot? Because like
Okay.
it's just so good.
I mean, it is. It's good. It's good. It's a
Yeah.
good game. I picked this up because you were gushing about it. I saw all
Yeah.
the other reviews about it. I think like the homages to platforming era, it ranks higher than all the Mario games. But I think that's also because, like you said, it owes a lot of its DNA
Mm,
to those Mario games, to
yeah.
being new, being exciting, not being afraid of doing something different,
Right.
while also paying homage to PlayStation's legacy and past. I
Yeah.
think I think that's the one area that might be a bit not difficult, but a bit out there for players who only played PS3, maybe only PS4. That there are a lot of deep cuts and characters that have not graced a
Yeah.
video game in decades.
Yeah. But the coolest part about that PlayStation synergy is, like I said, is that they're not just stopping at the nostalgia. They're interweaving the nostalgia into the gameplay in a lot of cases, which I think is key. It like breathes life into what would otherwise feel cynical. It does it in a way that Nintendo does it with the Super Smash Brothers games, which is like, no, we're not just honoring these games. We want you to remember why they were good in the first place. I think it's going to cause a lot of people to be curious about the PlayStation canon and go back and play some of those games that they missed.
I think one of my just last thing I'll say on it is that when you do find character specific bots, because not all of the bots are PlayStation
Right.
characters, but of the character specific bots that you find, they're always doing something or located somewhere
Yeah.
tangentially related to their franchise, to
Yeah.
their game, to whatever like makes it kind of memorable.
Yeah.
Uh, the one that like immediately like caught my eye was Ellie from The Last of Us. You find her sitting in the forest strumming a guitar. I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, she would be.
And then even better is when you revisit your hub worlds, the crash site later, all of the bots you rescued are chilling and you can see them naturally do things. Then
Mhm.
there's a gotcha machine that you unlock where you buy basically accessories for the characters. So that only grows. They start getting like items that they get in their games and they start playing around with them. You can just sit and watch them play around with items that they play like they that you unlock for them. It creates this like PlayStation world almost that you can visit with all these different characters. It's great.
It's fun. You can see the smiles on our face. Hopefully, you
Yeah.
can hear the smiles through our face
Yeah.
in the podcast. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
we got to continue though. We're
Yeah, I
gushing
know.
so much about Astrobot that yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, we'll talk more about
Get
it, I'm
playing
sure.
it. Oh, we definitely play part of it. Um, I mean, we'll talk more about it like when we actually beat it. Maybe you'll even platinum it.
I think I might try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you will. All right. I assume you didn't play anything else.
No, briefly some more Peglin. I'm on Crucible 2, so I'm cruising with that. Yeah, I didn't go back to the Call of Duty beta before it ended on the 9th. So yeah, I'm out of that. But yeah, more just I'm just gonna kind of play more Astrobot until something else comes out.
Yeah, well, I'm playing more NFL because it is week one, and that's just us right into sports
Yep.
and television because yes, it is week one of the NFL, and boy, was it a shit show. It if your fantasy team, speaking of games, sucked this week, that's okay. Your opponent probably sucked too. Unless you have to go against the guy who just happened to play all the best people for week one. Because out of the entire NFL, all 32 teams, only 32 touchdowns were scored out of all 32 teams. To put that into perspective, last year, 64 touchdowns were scored
Wow.
in week one. The week before
Big
or the year
difference.
before, 66 touchdowns. The year before that, the average for week one is typically around like 50 to 55 touchdowns. And this was 32, a very downer year for week one. So don't worry, it gets better. Uh, your reminder to check your fantasy teams, check your fantasy lines, and also don't gamble what you can't afford.
Yeah, yeah, gamble responsibly. I just want to point out though, for the Pick'em League though, I am currently doing better than you are.
I would like to point out that before the Pick'em League, out of the 50 people who we got to sign up day of week one kickoff, I am currently ranked 15 out of 15.
I know. I was shocked to see that earlier today because I didn't know who won last night, and so I had to check it. And I was like, "Oh, cool! I won. How's Mike doing?" Scroll, scroll, scroll.
Yeah, just scroll, keep scrolling.
I'm not
Uh,
doing too hot either. I only have
I made
one
some
more
big
win than you.
swings and some bold predictions. I think
I also,
Bengals losing to the
yeah.
to New England screwed a lot of people over.
I also, yeah, it was, what did it say? Only one person, I think, out of all 15 of us chose them. So
Yep.
no, it wasn't just you. But yeah, no, there were a lot of, I think, close calls that could, like, coin flips kind of matches that I
Yeah.
just lost the coin flip on. So
I
yeah,
was reading something on sleep regarding like sleepers survivor pool
uh,
that over 60% got knocked out because they chose
yeah,
the Bengals over New England.
damn, that sucks.
So yeah, that game just Joe Burrow just buried a bunch of people week one.
Yes, so
Yeah. But there were other sports that happened.
yes.
Uh, we had the US Open of tennis winners this past weekend, and surprising no one, number one ranked male tennis star, Jannik Sinner, and number two ranked women's tennis star, Arna Sabalenka, are your US Open winners. To the shock of no one. There's a reason they're ranked at the top, and they just proved it just now. Uh, let's go into other sports. As did you know that there's a professional women's hockey league?
I believe we talked about it briefly here on the show.
Yes, we talked about it in May when the team Minnesota won the professional women's hockey league first year.
Hmm.
Well, they're going into year two, and they've given everyone team names. The inaugural six have
Okay.
been officially announced, with the city staying the same, but the team names and team logos have officially been announced for PWHL 2, being Boston Fleet, Montreal Victoire, New York Sirens, Ottawa Charge, Toronto Scepters, and their defending champions, the Minnesota Frost. 5 out of 6 are 10 out of 10 names.
What's the one you don't like?
New York Sirens.
Sure.
I get what they're going for, kind of a double entendre there.
Yeah, yeah.
But also
But you don't
just
want to hear a New York
you don't want to
siren.
hear, yeah, you don't want to hear New York Sirens.
You already hear them too much.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, that is the weird one. But yeah, special women's hockey league will continue later this year with actual gear and merch. And you can go buy actual gear and merch and support your team.
Cool.
Although there is no one here on the East Coast, so or sorry, West Coast, so tier.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of in a dead zone for them, I guess.
I don't know. I think Arizona now has a hockey arena that's opened up for them to play in.
Well, there you go.
All right. Speaking of NHL hockey, puck drops October 8th,
Hmm.
NBA tip-offs October 22nd.
Yep.
Getting ever so closer to those happening. And lastly, in sports news, the MLB. We are in September. Technically, no team has officially locked up a playoff berth. Technically, because we could see about roughly 9 teams that are just gonna put the little asterisk next to their name and be like, yeah, you pretty much made it in. Like you mathematically have made yourself into the playoffs.
Hmm.
Um, no team has officially secured it, but that's because mathematically they could still technically be eliminated. Mathematically. All right. I think that's all there is for sports this weekend.
Okay, so yeah, just keep watching baseball as we cruise through the last month of season play, and then yeah, soon other sports will be dropping too. So look forward to that. In the meantime, let's talk about some television. Why don't we? And let's talk about the Emmys, but not the primetime ones yet. We're talking about the Creative Arts Emmys, or the Creative Awards, as you put here. The Creative Arts Emmys happened, and we have a bunch of winners for you. Shogun has won a total of 14 Emmys already, leading all shows and setting a new record for most wins in a single year before the primetime Emmys have even occurred. Big deal.
Yes.
The Bear, meanwhile, has 7 Emmys so far, with Saturday Night Live coming in just behind it at 6. FX leads all distributors with 27 wins following the Creative Arts Awards, followed by Netflix with 18 and Apple TV Plus with 15. Other award notes include Only Murders in the Building won for original music and lyrics, which helped Benj Pasek and Justin Paul to win their EGOT. In case you don't know who they are the writer-songwriters behind Broadway's hit Dear Evan Hansen, as well as other things. So yeah.
Sorry, I was sitting my thumbs up.
Right. So Christy, friend of the show, is pissed because she is very angry that these two EGOTted before Lin-Manuel Miranda did.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah. Lin-Manuel Miranda needs the Oscar. He has the other 3.
Yeah.
Pasek and Paul only needed the Emmy, and now they had it. So yeah, here we are. They also wrote this. So you're probably wondering, wait, how did they win their Oscar? They won their Oscar for the songs in La La Land, who they are behind as well.
Boo.
Yeah, it's sad. Which beat Moana that year, by the way,
Yes.
which is why why she's as angry as she is. Anyways, so yeah, it's besides that, it is good for the show. I actually enjoyed the songs that they did for it. It made that season feel special. So I guess congratulations.
It does help because it was very Broadway-esque
Yes.
in their season.
Yeah. Anyway, elsewhere in the Creative Arts Emmys, Alan Cumming won his first Emmy for emceeing The Traitors,
The
as he says
Traitors.
it.
Yeah.
Well deserved, I think.
Yes.
Pat Sajak took home a, I guess you could say, career-spanning Emmy for hosting Wheel of Fortune. I think everybody agreed. Let's give it to him for the legacy and not so much the individual year.
Yeah. Also,
Seems
Jeopardy.
fair.
I mean, Ken Jennings won it last year, so they already gave
Right.
it to him at once.
So yeah, he's got one. And Dick Van Dyke became the oldest Emmy winner ever when he took the stage to accept the award for Best Pre-Recorded Variety Special for his Dick Van Dyke 98 Years of Magic. He turns 99 next month. The Emmys are the primetime Emmys, the proper Emmys, will take place on Sunday, September 15th at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC. And as we mentioned before on the show, will be hosted by Eugene and Daniel Levy. So look forward to that.
Unless you have DirecTV, in which case it may still be blacked out.
Yeah. I remembered something that I watched.
All right. Well, while you type that up, I want to talk about what I watch because it is literally right up my alley.
Okay.
It's Greek mythology.
Oh.
It's Jeff Goldblum,
Oh.
and it's modern day set. And that's how you get mix those together and you get chaos.
I
That is
was
chaos
at
with a K.
Yeah, I was at a party on the Sunday before Labor Day, and 2 people at the party were telling everybody else about chaos. So what's chaos besides what you just said?
Uh More or less it's that. It's Hades Town without the musical.
Sure.
It's a story of or Orpheus and Eurydice,
Mm.
as Orpheus journeys down to the underworld to pick Eurydice back up after sending her there, and like defy death and defy the gods and
Yeah.
enact chaos. It has a lot of your traditional Greek mythological characters and players in this. You don't need to know a whole lot of the Greek pantheon
Good.
because a lot of them do not show up in this. It's just the main 3 of Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, as well as Hera and Dionysus for some reason, god of basically horniness,
Yeah.
love, greed, horniness, party, and like trying to defy prophecy, trying to defy the fates. If this sounds a whole lot like other like Greek mythology tales, I wonder why, because it's ripped directly from them. Uh, so part of it me like throws into the like I'm all in on this because I like reusing Greek mythology for current day, or it's any mythology for current day, except for Romeo and Juliet in current day. Looking at you, Romeo, uh, Leonardo DiCaprio in Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
circa 1997. But if you like that feel, you're gonna love Chaos because it's got the exact same vibrant vibes and tones everywhere you
Okay.
look. Um, Jeff Goldblum absolutely knocks it out of the park here. He doesn't ham it up in very much his Jeff Goldblum style. He very much takes this role super seriously, and I think it plays better for it because everyone else around him plays it super seriously too. Even though like it is kind of Greek mythology, comedy and tragedy that I think he sets the tone for this whole series. And if he's in here hamming it up and being just like all goofy Jeff Goldblum, like we know him to be, then most of the
Mm,
series would be just goofy and like over the top and like not taking it seriously as it currently is. And it works for the betterment of it, especially when you're trying to speak to prophecy, trying to defy prophecy.
right.
That's one thing that I have a very hard time with talking about shows that deal with prophecy is, well, you're never going to defy prophecy. So let's see how creative you can be in making sure it falls through with it. And they're
Yeah.
very creative in following through with it. I think it's
Okay.
very well done. I think everything they say does come true to a degree, but that's also why prophecies are left vague on purpose. So they can say, yes, see, this is totally what we meant and what we saw. But I
Right.
think it follows through and it commits. It commits to the Greek mythology. The characters or the actors commit to their characters of being Greek gods, and I think it because it fully commits to it, it makes me the viewer being fully invested into it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I had a good time with Chaos.
Okay.
It's short. It's 8 episodes. They're all an hour each, so enough to binge over a weekend.
This sounds like catnip for Christy. I think
Yeah,
she'd love it. What is this on?
Netflix.
Netflix? Okay. I'll let her know. Maybe this will be the next thing we kind of dive into.
Yeah, like I said, it's super fun, super casual watching. I do like the aesthetics they do between the living world and the dead world, as well
Mm.
as the Greek world, Olympus, Earth, and Hades, underworld, Astropol. If you played Hades video game,
Right.
you'll
Yep.
recognize a lot
I
of the
remember.
characters listed in here.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, uh, you don't need to have deep Greek mythology like mythos going into it,
Mm.
but does help with viewing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it adds to the atmosphere a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right, but you watched something that you typed in here real
Yeah,
quickly.
I'll be brief. I watched the new FX comedy English Teacher,
Now,
which
is this in any way related to the movie, The English Teacher?
no, unrelated. This
Okay,
is a sitcom about, hey, you guessed it, an English teacher at a high school. A lot of people are making comparisons, the easy comparison to Abbott Elementary,
that's where I
but
was going to go.
what I will say is that they're very different shows. First of all, take it being on FX seriously. It is way raunchier and does a lot like that you can't get away with on a show like Abbott Elementary. And also because they scale up the age of the kids, it's more like that you don't have to worry about like children really being the subject. It's teenagers. It's high school kids. Anyway, the show's main hook is that the titular English teacher is gay. That is the axis on which everything about this show like revolves. It takes place at a school in the South. So you can imagine that him being gay is not always a strength for him. It's often an obstacle that he has to overcome. And so the plot so far in the show have all revolved on around the fact that he is an outlier in the community that he is in. Not well, I was gonna say not too dissimilar to some of the stuff that that Elementary does with race, but like in a different, but in a more obvious way, in a more comic way, because That's the other thing about English Teacher is it does not quite have the heart that Abbott Elementary does. It is very much kind of in the nihilist comedy mode that we saw a lot more in the 2000s. Think like 30 Rock
Mhm.
in the kind of vibe, where, yes, the character ostensibly has a moral like bent and he is trying to like bring good to the kids and be a generally good person, but he is thwarted by the other teachers or the kids themselves constantly. And ultimately, every episode, I've only watched the two first episodes that they put up on Hulu so far, but he is basically, you were left kind of at the end where it's like, well, I guess there's no real moral to this, anyways. So if you're looking for kind of that moralistic kind of setup that Abbott Elementary does really well with, that's not what this show is. So yeah, throw the comparisons out the window. It's very doing a very different thing. It does kind of harken back to a kind of sitcom that they kind of don't make as much anymore. But that all said, I think it does a good job for what it is. I think it's pretty funny. It's rapid fire joke pace. It has a very specific vibe and energy that I think is refreshing in a lot of ways. And so I like that part about it. I'm less thrilled about how it deals with um, issues and how kind of off the cuff and cavalier it is about it. And does remind me the reason why they don't make comedies like that anymore as much. But if you're willing to kind of roll with the punches and take this show as it is, this absurdist, like rapid fire comedy, then I think there's a lot to enjoy here. So I would say check out the pilot and see how you feel about the pilot, and then see if you're going to continue with it. I'm on the fence to whether I'm going to pick up episode 3 that came out today, I think. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to spend more time with it, but it is interesting. I think it does a good job with what it is.
All right, comedic wise, because it's FX to What We Do in the Shadows, or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's not as over the top as those shows. It's closer to Always Sunny than it is to
Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows. I like What We Do in the Shadows because of just how crazy it gets. This is not that crazy. It's a lot more grounded in reality. But yeah, and it doesn't get quite as ridiculously offensive as Always Sunny can, but it gets close. It wants to go in that direction. It wants to like it's closer to that in the spectrum, I guess I could say.
All right.
Yeah, interesting. I would
So
like to get your kind of temperature on it. You should try it this pilot.
I might try it out. All right. Well then, if nothing else,
No,
let's
that'll
go
be
into
it.
cancellations and renewals.
Yes, that will do it for that. So cancellation and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
You're no longer watching Netflix's Buying London, as it has been canceled after one season. I guess they bought all of London.
Or are they just selling London now?
Yeah, maybe. 911 Lone Star has been canceled after 5 seasons on Fox. 911 Normal will continue on ABC, where it is right now, right?
Yes, no word
Yeah,
if ABC would pick up 911 Lone Star, so
yeah,
it is effectively canceled right now.
right.
I don't see a campaign to bring it back.
No, I mean, if normal 911 is doing crazy shit, like what is it, a bee tornado or whatever shit they did this week,
Yeah.
you don't really need a
Well, the
spinoff.
season opened with the Poseidon adventure, not even in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, Also in cancellations this week, We're Here on HBO canceled after 4 seasons, so they're no longer there.
They were.
Um, yes, they were. And then Bosch, its third season will be its final season on Freevee. Remember Freevee?
Revived and done.
Yep. We also have some renewals. Only Murders in the Building, in advance of the ending of its fourth season, got renewed for a fifth season on Hulu, of course. Unicorn Academy on Netflix will get a second season as well.
Yep.
Then we have a couple of deaths to talk about briefly here. We have songwriter Will Jennings, age 80, co-wrote My Heart Will Go On and Up Where We Belong. So some classic ballads in the Will Jennings songbook. So
Yep.
yes, definitely.
Classic 90s ballads right there. Oscar
Yeah.
winning ballads.
Yes, indeed. But the big death that happened just yesterday and surprised me, none other than Darth Vader himself, James Earl Jones, passed at 93. Actor, of course, famous for roles in films such as Field of Dreams, Mufasa from The Lion King, in both versions of The
Mufasa
Lion
from The
King,
Lion King 2019.
and the guy that told you that it was CNN that you were watching, among many other roles like jazz saxophonist Bleeding Gums Murphy on The Simpsons, as well as countless roles. Just a incomparable voice actor and actor, just a memorable voice that anybody can remember and quote. Just a reliable star that you could just throw in as a cameo role in anything and be like, that's James Earl Jones, and
The
be very
Sandlot.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Just a wonderful man. We will dearly miss him. Disney has some choices to make now with
Nope,
how
nope.
they treat his legacy.
They do not have any choice because we reported on here that James Earl Jones and his estate did sign away his voice to be used in perpetuity
Yes,
forever
I know.
as the voice of Darth Vader.
It's disappointing, but part of me is hoping
Maybe a
that
different
maybe
person under
they,
the
yeah,
helmet, but
right.
it'll always be his voice that you hear.
Well, yeah, it's a shame that that has to happen, but it is. But yes, we'll remember him as one of the just wow, just like amazing voices in media that we've
Mhm.
ever had. All right. Anyway, let's move out of television then and move into the movie section and start with our weekend box office numbers.
All right, we got
Your
Stevie Gray here ahead.
yes,
You can only say it
your
twice. Don't say it a third time.
right. Your number one movie this week is Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Stopping there. With a debut of $111 million. That's a pretty good opening week. So I'm sure they're pretty thrilled with how that's gone.
It did hit number one, but then
Yeah.
again, top petition, much like Beetlejuice himself, was
Yes.
not stiff.
No. Number two, coming in at number two, Deadpool and Wolverine with another 7.2 million. That's at 614 domestic, doing pretty hot. Number three, Reagan, and its second week, $5.2 million. That's at 18.5. Number four, Alien Romulus with another 3.9 million. That's at 97. That will crawl, or maybe alien crawl, to 100, I believe.
It'll hit 100.
Yeah. Number five, It Ends With Us rounds out your top five with 3.7 million. That's at 141, and we'll probably slow after this.
Yeah, I'll
So
just
yeah,
hover right above the 150 mark, probably.
yeah. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Beetlejuice did pretty well. I think everything got out of the way. It was the only new release, and it's a known franchise. And from everything I've heard about it, is it does the things that you would expect a Beetlejuice sequel to do, and nothing more and nothing less.
It plays the hits?
Yeah,
What?
plays the hits. That's
All right.
from what I can tell.
Well, speaking of playing the
Upcoming,
hits,
upcoming this week we have wow, a weird triplet of movies. Something for everybody? Question mark.
question
First
mark.
off, we have another edition in the God's Not Dead franchise, inexplicably called God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. So,
Hey, you forgot it's colon in the middle.
so your local church group will be going to see that this week. Next up, My Old Ass.
Comedy.
Sure, as it should be.
Yes.
And then we also have Speak No Evil.
This is your horror as we get into October and spooky season.
Yes. So yeah, something for everybody here. Let's move on into some movies in the future, aka festival season, with some
Yay.
news from Sundance. Sundance, the Robert Redford founded festival, could find in a new home in 2027 when its current contract with Park City, Utah expires. The relocation efforts could see the film festival move to Atlanta, Cincinnati, Louisville, Boulder, Colorado, or Santa Fe, New Mexico. To prevent a relocation, Utah has put forth an ambitious plan that, at its core, would see the much larger and more accessible Salt Lake City become the festival hub, and Park City highlighted as more of special events and weekend satellite for the event. Despite rumors that a decision of where Sundance will or will not be in 2027 would come this fall, it actually looks like it'll be a few months before a final verdict is given. So the fate of Sundance remains a mystery.
Yep. I mean, that's kind of one thing that makes Sundance kind of special is that it took place in Park City, Utah. It's
Yeah.
these small indie films, mostly small indie films, in this kind of small independent town. The fact that they want to put it into a larger suburban area kind of not ruins, but muddles what Sundance was initially for, what it was initially started for, especially if we're going to go to a big city like Atlanta or Cincinnati or Louisville. Even moving it to Salt Lake City, which is its own giant hub in Utah, and use the Park City as its satellite, kind of uh, means that they want the festival to move to a more like grandiose
Yeah,
kind of spectacle than what's been known for in the past.
I get it.
I
But
mean, I get it. More theaters, bigger metropolitan area, more eyes, more money. It technically counts as it's a business.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
they do have the right to pick it up and move. I kind of hope they stay. I do like the appeal of it,
yeah, just think
but
for the legacy of it. I think it
I
would
think
be
that's more
interesting if
of
they
it.
did.
Yeah, the legacy of it, that because it's always been at Park City, Utah, and
Yeah.
to move it to a bigger city kind of means that's just becomes another city festival, and then that just leaves Austin city limits, I guess, as where they do the small stuff. Although even Austin isn't that big anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
All right,
Uh,
but hey, they got two
Interesting
years to
nonetheless.
figure it out.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, then that will do it for movie news. And unless we watched any movies,
I did watch
no.
Furiosa again,
Right.
but
Again.
only to color to my TV,
Yeah.
and it looks great,
Yeah, I bet
and
it
it sounds
does.
great.
Talk about more of that at the end of the year. But for now,
Yep.
yeah, I'm kind of in a holding pattern for movies. There's a few movies that are going to come to streaming at the end by the end of this month, like Challengers is going to hit Amazon Prime by the end of the month. It's on MGM Plus now, but who the hell has that?
Yep.
So yeah, by the end of this month, I'll probably try to watch that, and then next month there's a couple of other things that are hitting streaming. So yeah,
I might. I'm probably going to see Megalopolis in
okay,
theaters at the end of the month, though.
okay. So yeah, just holding pattern for movies right now, but we will eventually watch them.
Yes, we will.
All right. Well, that'll do it then for the movie section, and that'll do it for the Media Boat podcast. So thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll be back next week for even more. If in the meantime you want to catch up on our shows, the video versions are on our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search Media Boat Podcast, find our channel, like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications when new episodes go up. You can also find us on podcast feeds such as iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, search Media Boat Podcast and you'll find us. You can also find us on the web. Our website is mediaboatpodcast.com. Social media, we're on X/Twitter at MediaBoatCast. Blue Sky, search MediaBoat to find us there. Facebook, pop in Media Boat Podcast, find our page. Twitch.tv/MediaBoat is where you can watch Mike play more football or watch his archive of his Astro Bot intro from a couple of days ago. Um, then what else? Yeah, email us if you have any questions, comments, feedback about the show, mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com.
All right, that'll do it for us. We'll be back
Yes.
next week with Emmy winners. We didn't do Emmy
Yes.
predictions, but we will have Emmy winners to talk about,
Oh, shoot.
as well
Yeah,
as
you're
Miranda
right.
Lambert and more Astrobot, and yeah, more news, more thoughts, and more of us.
Yeah, our predictions are the Bear and Shogun will win everything. Bye.
Pretty much. Okay, bye.